everyone. Thank you very much for joining us here tonight on The Edge. I'm Paula Zahn. Leading The Edge tonight, the one and only Rush Limbaugh. Welcome back.
Hey, it's nice to be here. Thanks for having me back. It's
Our
always a
pleasure. It took us a full year to get you back here.
Come back when it matters. Come back when it's important. Come back when the team needs me. Come back during the middle of the biggest, most important election of my lifetime.
How badly does your team need you now?
I don't think it needs me probably very much at all. I think the work that we've done up till now has had its effect. And the truth be known, the candidate generates his support, and he's doing a marvelous job of that, W is. So, I mean, this is all just a bunch of excited supporters doing what they can, but he doesn't need me or anybody but himself. He's got a great team, and I think they've done a masterful job of strategy. They've done a great job of planning it, executing it. It really has been something I think the political scientists who are, after this is over, can swallow what's happened, because most of them are in ivory towers and liberal meccas somewhere. Once they swallow it, they'll be able to study it and learn quite a bit about this. Because, you know, nobody from Washington, Paula, they've kept it down there in Austin. They've not had all these so-called experts who know how to do this from inside the Beltway. It's been a masterful campaign.
But you're making it sound like it is an absolute given that George W. Bush is going to win. Now, if you look at these polls and you munch them all together, isn't the bottom line, although Mr. Bush may enjoy a slight lead in some of these polls, you're looking with a margin of error, a statistical dead heat?
No, I don't think it's a statistical dead heat.
I don't want to argue poll by poll, but what is your interpretation?
Well, my interpretation is that this race is a lot bigger margin of victory than anybody in the press wants to make it out to be. These polls...
Wait, are you suggesting we're misidentifying the numbers, or we're interpreting them incorrectly?
No, but I think the press relies on these polls, and that's all you rely on. There's a lot of other factors you can look at. You can look at the momentum. You can look at the attitude of the two candidates. You can see who's up and positive. You can see who's down in the dumps. You can see who's excited to be out there. You can see who appears to be going through the motions. You can see whose supporters are ready to go and excited. You can see other supporters who look like corpses. You can look at the strategy. I mean, the polls... they're good for one thing, but they're not the final analysis. Look at the Bush campaign right now it's going everywhere Gore is. It's going into Democrat states. Bush states he's going to win California. Gore hasn't even gotten his base yet together, Paula. He hadn't even firmed that up. And that's the biggest sign to me of trouble. Everywhere you look, the press is just now getting enamored of the fact that the Republican base is jazzed. It's excited. The get out the vote on the Bush side has been taken care of. Republican base conservatives are energized like they haven't been in 20 years. They can't wait to get out there and vote.
What evidence do you see of that at this stage of the campaign?
Look at the absentee ballots in Florida alone. 100,000 Republican ballots have been requested, more than any Democrat absentee ballots are. I can see it on my radio show. Even other networks have been watching at night some of the other cable shows as I scan around. And the network news broadcasts are all talking about how the get out the vote efforts of Bush are just making Gore's pale in comparison. Well, look, I'm a conservative, and I do a radio talk show, the largest in the nation. I know this base is energized, and this base has been energized since the South Carolina primary. These people cannot wait to go vote, Paula. Mark my words. It's a turnout election, and that's what Gore's having trouble doing. That's why he's energizing the base. That's why he's got Clinton out doing what he's doing, because they don't even have their base ready to go yet. All
right, I know you say that the press overemphasizes polls, but do you not subscribe to the view that neither one of these candidates has been able to sustain a substantial lead?
I subscribe to the view that there is one candidate who has been able to maintain a substantial lead for the last 6 weeks.
What's a substantial lead in your judgment? I know you said there's other ways of measuring it other than numbers, but like a 2-point lead?
There are 3 polls. No, 4 to 6. Right now, the battleground poll is 7. The Zogby poll is 5. Portrait America is 6. You average that out, you got a 6-point lead. In Portrait of America and Battleground, George W. Bush has been up at least 4 points for the last 45 days, month and a half. Bush has not been trailing Gore in any of those polls other than Zogby in and out. There is plenty of evidence here to suggest that this race is looking a lot different than what the state polls want to show you or what the national polls want to show you. But don't misunderstand. I don't think this race is over. I mean, anything can still happen. But I'm just commenting to you on how I feel as a Bush supporter. I mean, I know how I felt in '92 and how I felt in '96. I knew what the outcome was going to be at this stage. And it feels a lot different. And a lot of other Bush supporters are telling me and everybody else that it feels a lot different.
Let me ask you this. You say one of the other factors you look at to see how a candidate's doing is how up and how positive they are. We're going to quickly air an ad the Republican Party is airing on George W. Bush's behalf, and you tell me if that matches that description. Let's listen in.
Remember when Al Gore said his mother-in-law's prescription cost more than his dog's? His own aide said the story was made up. Now Al Gore is bending the truth again. The press calls Gore's Social Security attacks nonsense. Governor Bush sets aside $2.4 trillion to strengthen Social Security and pay all benefits.
There has never been a time in this campaign when I have said something that I know to be untrue. There's never been a time when I've said something untrue.
Really?
All right, if you believe that George W. Bush is doing as well as he is right now, why the heck is he running an ad like that? And would you describe that as a positive ad?
It's a great ad.
Is it positive?
Sure it is.
How is that
Would
positive?
you tell me what's wrong with it?
I'm not going to.
Oh no, you're challenging me here. You're challenging me.
Well, let me give you what the Democrats.
You tell me what's. No, you tell me what you think's wrong.
I don't offer my personal opinions of the show about
anything. You already have. You have been the whole show in the tone in which you've been asking me questions.
All right, Rush. The
what
Democrats.
do you think of the ad?
Okay, I never offer my personal opinion, but I will tell you what the Democrats.
You think the viewers do not know your personal opinion so far in this program?
How could they, Rush?
They very well could by the tone in which you're asking. It doesn't bother me, Paula. Go ahead. What are the Democrats telling you about?
Well, they say it's a sign of desperation, and they find it's negative. And why is he now at this stage of the campaign? Because they said that they're calling Mr. Gore a liar.
He is a liar.
All right. Now, Mr. Bush would not say that in an interview last night on NBC. So those aren't the words I choose to use.
Well, of course
He's an exaggerator.
He's got the campaign. This is the part of the strategy I think is brilliant. He's got a stump speech. He's got a stump speech that is awesome. It's inspiring. It's uplifting. But this social you talk about lies. The lies that are being told about George W. Bush's Social Security plan by the Gore team are some of the most reprehensible I have seen in American politics. The Gore campaign has sought to win by scaring senior citizens, pitting grandparents against grandchildren. It is despicable. They're pitting black versus white. They're creating enemies of one group of Americans against another. What they're saying about Bush's Social Security plan is an out-and-out lie. Gore is a liar. It's about time those Social Security ads were responded to, and this is a great ad that does that.
All right.
Everything in this ad is absolutely true. Its timing is perfect. And I note that the Democrats are not refuting anything in the ad. They're just saying, he can't be a uniter. I saw Mark Fabiani. He can't be a uniter if he's going to run this ad. You know what that's saying? The Democrats and the Gore people are saying, you can't tell the truth about us. That's mean. That's dirty politics. Well, this is the truth about you, Mr. Gore, and your campaign, and you got to learn to deal with it, because this is a campaign that's going to tell people the truth about you. That's what that ad says.
One quick question before we go to the break. We know there are Republicans out there who don't feel that the Bush campaign has responded strongly enough to these aggressive attacks by Gore.
Right.
Was this ad too little too late?
Oh,
because you have people like Senator Hutchinson who really wished in his state an ad like that had been on 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and you had a lot of people in Florida who wished the same thing. Well, that is... that's a matter of strategy, and there was a time where I thought that they were waiting too long, and I haven't spoken to them about their strategy, but I've watched it, I've studied it, and I think what they're doing is executing a strategy that says people will remember what they most recently hear, and they're rolling the dice that a lot of people are only just now, and in the past 7 to 10 days, really paying close attention, and that means that a lot of attention has not been paid by the general public on these attacks in Florida, the Ed Asner phone calls. So now they're getting out with the refutation ad, and I think they're spending a lot of money on them. They're saturating the air with these things, and I think they're banking on the fact that a lot more people now are paying attention than, say, were 10 days ago or 2 weeks ago.
So you're not fearful that this ad will just neutralize the charges of Gore?
No,
you actually think it'll make a meaningful difference?
Its effectiveness is testified to by Mark Fabiani's reaction, by the Democrats' reaction that, oh, this is mean-spirited, oh, this means they're desperate, oh, this means... If this ad were working in Gore's favor, they'd be asking for more of it. They'd be sitting around saying nothing and trying to do rope-a-dope and dope Bush into playing more of it. But they're trying to get this ad stopped because it's effective.
Okay, more on other ads on the other side of the break. Please stand by. We'll be right back. And we continue now with Rush Limbaugh. Welcome back. What did you think the first time you saw that ad, an ad that's been airing now for a couple of weeks?
I've had a multitude of reactions to it. The first one was anger. I mean, it's irresponsible. It is... I think, Paula, that ad is exemplary of what's wrong with the last 8 years in America. That ad, again, seeks to frighten people. It seeks to accuse or imply Bush is responsible for murder down in Texas, which nothing further from the truth could be said. We are a better people than that. The NAACP has now been Clintonized. They've shrunk to the, or descended to the level of this kind of despicable politics, pitting people against one another purely for the sake of Democratic Party victory. This is not advancing the cause of civil rights in America. This isn't advancing the cause of crime against blacks in America. This doesn't do anything that other than attempt to further the electoral chances of Al Gore. And it really is a, you know, I have a great view of what America is. We are a distinct American culture where people came here from all four corners of the world to create this country. We love each other. We put our trust in God, our faith in each other. This seeks to divide us and make us angry at each other and at war with one another. There's nothing factual in that ad. There's nothing other than an attempt to evoke an emotional response at a base level that is not productive or conducive to anything positive about our culture, our society, or furthering race relations.
Was it at all meaningful to you that people like Senator Bob Kerrey asked that an ad like this come off the air?
Well, sure, but note that it didn't. I mean, see, that's another thing. A lot of people want credit for saying, pull that ad. They can then say, see, I'm big-hearted, I'm compassionate, I understand. The ad didn't come down. It continued to run after that. You know, if people want credit for condemning it, that's fine, but the NAACP are the people who should be forced to re-examine what they're trying to do here and who really has taken control of their organization and for what purpose, because that just, it really demeans the American political process, I think. Is
it possible that that ad is scary enough that it actually would encourage someone to vote for the first time?
I have no idea. This is one of the fears is that things like this do serve to divide people and inspire them in a negative way to go vote on pretexts that are just outrageously untrue. I remember 4 years ago in the '96 presidential race, the Democratic National Committee sanctioned ads in Missouri, or radio ads, and they basically said, if you vote for Bob Dole, more black churches will burn. And those ads worked. And I think it's despicable. I think it's an insult to the audience that those ads are aimed at. It does not reach to the best of people and seek to elevate the best of what we're about. That ad seeks to capitalize on prejudice. It seeks to manufacture bias and racism and then capitalize on it, which is so much of what the Gore campaign is about. I spoke of earlier, dividing people, creating grandparents against grandchildren and blacks against whites and women against men. It's just, we have no place for this in politics. I think this election is about ridding politics of this kind of approach. You know, the politics of personal destruction. The guys that stand against that are running this ad. We must stop the bickering, which stop the politics of personal destruction. They said this on the White House lawn after impeachment. Who is it that's engaging in this stuff? I mean, George W. Bush not running ads like this. Look at the ad you just played a moment ago that the Democrats are all upset about. They're upset about it because he just replayed Gore's own words and he corrected the record on Social Security, but there was nothing that was divisive. There was nothing that insulted. There was nothing that engendered hate. It was just an attempt to correct the record. This doesn't do any of that. It just lowers everybody's base existence. I don't think there's anything worthy of that ad.
We've got more video for you to react to on the other side of the break. The next one coming from Senator Joe Lieberman. I think you probably heard it before over the weekend. More with Rush Limbaugh in just a moment. We'll be right back.
Look, it's a big job, and with all respect, if you look at his record, if you look at his plans, if you look at his experience, if you compare him to Al Gore's record, experience, and plans for America, maybe someday, but not now. Now, George Bush is not ready to be president of the United States, the kind of president you need and deserve.
If you were to reduce this campaign to the two simplest descriptions, because I guess some political pundits are calling this now, is it down to the liar versus the dummy? Is that what we come to?
No. You know, I resent that. I resent those people. I was asked the other day, are you of the opinion that this is an example of what's wrong with the American political system because this is the best we got? Couldn't we do better than this? Look, these are the people that won the votes of the American people in the Democratic primary system. There may be better people, but they didn't show up to run. And a lot of people still have heartache over John McCain that he didn't win, but that's it. He didn't win. He's a fine man, a great hero, but he lost. It's time to get over it. George W. Bush is not dumb. He's not, whatever you quoted the Democrats as saying, he's not an idiot, and all of this talk about Gore is a liar. There's no question about it. But the thing about all of this, I think it goes to experience. And the thing that bothers me, that insults me the most, is this assumption that a guy who flunked divinity school, barely got through law, in fact had to quit law school, Al Gore, versus Bush, who's got a Harvard MBA. Why do they call Gore the smart one here? Bush is the smart one by that objective standard. I'll tell you why they do it, is because Gore's whole life has been in Washington. Whole life's been in politics. And to people in the media and in politics, the greatest qualification you can have is spending all your life in Washington. I think having Bush and Cheney in the White House with all their oil experience, good Lord, look at 62% of our dependence on oil. It's got to change, because we don't have a domestic oil policy. We don't. We are way too vulnerable to what happens in the Middle East. I see nothing wrong, for example, with having men who have hands-on experience in big oil in the Oval Office, who've dealt with people around the world in that. What qualification does Al Gore have dealing with oil? All he's done is written a book and talked about how we got to get rid of the internal combustion engine, how we're not going to drill for oil anymore. He's going to make us more dependent than ever on people who are not our friends at any given time for our energy needs.
What do you say to people, though, who are concerned because of Mr. Cheney's and Mr. Bush's ties to the oil industry, that they'll be captive of those large industries?
Well, you see, well, tell me that Mr. Gore is not captive to Planned Parenthood. Tell me Gore is not captive to NEA. Gore is captive to all the unions. The teachers' union and the education system to which he's captive has led the American education system to one of its low points in our history. Why is Gore not said to be captive of all those who support him?
All right, so are you suggesting that then people should be concerned about an alliance with the big oil industry, or you're just pointing out that every candidate has an allegiance to some group?
Well, let me say this specifically about Bush and Cheney and their being captive to big oil. I happen to think, based upon my knowledge of both men, they are men of the highest integrity. I think they are decent men. I don't think that they are going to sell the White House and the Lincoln bedroom to campaign contributors from foreign countries, to representatives of industry that support them, be it Hollywood or any other industry. I think we're going to get a much different moral leadership, a moral tone. The idea that Bush and Cheney are captive to big oil, and that Al Gore somehow is not, that he is immune to being captive to anybody, is insulting to my intelligence. They are not captive to anybody. These people simply have experience. They have experience in the private sector, which is what makes this country work. There's not a single government program that's responsible for America's greatness. Because the people who work out there, it is you who are watching the show that make this country work. Not a leader, not a government program, not a series of policies. There is no government yet that had an economic policy that was the sole determining factor in the economy. Closest would be Reagan. It is the people engaging in commerce each and every day, pursuing self-interest, not selfishness, self-interest, trying to be the best they can be, that powers an economy. And a leader who knows that those are the people that make it work, and to get out of their way and get as many obstacles out of their way is a leader who's going to further the growth of the nation's economy best. And that's what Bush and Cheney are. They want to get out of people's way. They don't want to be beholden to big oil. They want to bring the experience that they've had in that industry to their governing experience, make us less dependent on foreign oil.
I need a very quick answer to this before we go to the break. Is Ralph Nader onto something when he said both of these candidates are compromised because of their ties to corporate donors?
No, I hear this.
And equally compromised.
No, without actually talking to him, I think I know what he means by that. And he's generally an anti-corporate person anyway. But no, short answer is I don't. I think it depends on personal character whether you are or not.
All right, we'll give you more time on the other side of the break. We're going to take a short break right now. We'll be right back.
If Al Gore cannot defeat a bumbling governor with a terrible record in Texas in the presidential election, then obviously David Letterman was right when he said a few weeks ago, quote, "People say Ralph Nader is taking votes away from Al Gore. Heck, Al Gore is taking votes away from Al Gore."
All right, we want to welcome back to The Edge, Rush Limbaugh. All right, you heard Mr. Nader say that.
I did.
The reality is Mr. Bush can do some damage to Mr. Gore, right?
Well, of course, he's going to beat him.
I'm sorry, did I say Mr. Nader?
Mr. Nader can do
some
oh,
serious
sure, yeah, he
damage to Mr.
can.
Gore,
I mean,
which will help Mr. Bush.
He's this year's Perot. I find it fascinating. You know, it's really, I don't know if you've noticed it or not. I watch the network shows in the morning. I watch some of the cable shows at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and they've had Nader on, and they're imploring him to quit. Journalists are, Paula. Ralph, do you know what you're about to do? You're about to hand the election to George Bush. And I don't remember any of them approaching Perot that way. I don't remember any New York Times editorials criticizing Perot for how he's destroying the electoral process, as they are with Nader.
Why do you think that is? Why is it different?
They've chosen Gore. I mean, the New York Times is obviously for Gore. The Washington Post is obviously for Gore. And these journalists are obviously for Gore. And Nader is getting in the way. And they're trying to convince Nader that he's got a patriotic duty as a Democrat to get out of this so that he doesn't lose the election for Gore. That's another reason.
I don't know that I can let you get away that all the journalists at the Washington Post and the New York Times want Gore to win, because I'm no mind reader, but...
You know, every time I get in the media, you want to defend them, and you can try all you want, Paula, but I mean, all I got to do is point you to Sam Donaldson this past Sunday. I mean, I've never seen a liberal get so mistreated as Ralph Nader was. And Donaldson admitted that the newspapers are for Gore. Go look at the tape. He admitted it. If you don't want to take my word for it. They have editorialized for, and I didn't say all journalists. You might be able to find a copy boy or a headline writer somewhere. You might find somebody in a food section that is.
You've challenged us now.
But look, let's not spend time on this. I don't think it's arguable that there is a tilt for liberal Democrats in the dominant Washington, New York media culture.
All right, before you go any further, I have a survey that actually discounts that, and you could throw this out if you want to. The Project for Excellence in Journalism. It's considered an independent group out of Columbia University.
Contradictory on its own. Excellence in journalism?
Excellence in journalism. But let me tell you what they said, and you can discount it as you like. They said that that both campaigns received equal amounts of stories, that 24% of the stories about Bush were positive, and that 13% for Gore were.
I throw it out. It's not what I see.
They say there was a tilt
look at
to the right.
The voter registration of these people, and there have been polls taken. What was the number? 85, 90% voted for Clinton in 92.
Is that the Freedom Forum study of the assignment editors?
Yeah, I think so. And you can talk about favorable coverage or amount of coverage or whatever, but there's also a thing I look at. Whereas they might have spent a lot of time, say, covering water, or Whitewater. They might have spent a lot of time covering the campaign finance scandal. There wasn't the sense of outrage, as they covered it, that there was, say, with Watergate. There wasn't the sense of outrage there was over some of the things that they found with George Bush. I'll never forget the so-called October surprise in 1980, when some Democrats suggested that George Bush flew to Paris to meet the Iranians to make sure they kept the American hostages. There was no, until after the election, until after the Jimmy Carter-Reagan election, there was no evidence, Paula. Zip, zero, nada. And Tom Foley in the House said, well, that's a serious charge. You better investigate this. They investigated, got around to it in 1988, when Bush was running for president against Dukakis. No evidence whatsoever. The press just piled right on. Well, there may be something here.
Let's fast forward to today.
I think that there is a lack of outrage at liberal abuses or mistakes when and that clearly taints and flavors coverage, regardless how much time a candidate gets.
You're absolutely convinced Nader will stay in. He refuses to drop out.
I actually, you know, I said, no. It's still a lot of time. There's still, what, 6 days to go?
Ooh.
Anything can happen, and I don't think we've seen the last of the dirt or the kitchen sink from the White House thrown at Bush. I don't think Clinton's through with whatever he's going to do. I don't think we've seen the worst, the lowest of the low from these people.
What could possibly be out there? That
Who
would be
knows?
Who knows? Early November surprise.
But these people have shown that, look, innocent people in 3 nations died with American bombs when Bill Clinton was being impeached just to distract their attention from it. I mean, if he'll launch missiles at aspirin factories to distract our attention from Monica Lewinsky's testimony.
Wait a minute. Are you saying the president only dropped those bombs to distract the nation from his impeachment crisis?
Yeah. Well, I'm getting this from Christopher Hitchens, who is a well-known liberal journalist who wrote about it. And there have been many others who have read that account and thought there's something to it. Not only, of course, but...
That there was absolutely no military justification.
Turns out there wasn't.
They might have been a little confused about what they were going to hit.
Yeah, they were confused. They thought that there was information they were making. nerve gas or biological weapons in that factory that was making Tylenol. And
so you're saying the president is a murderer? Or are you repeating what Christopher Hitchens is saying?
I am simply saying what Christopher Hitchens said. Innocent people in 3 nations died in order to keep the president's, keep the people's focus away from the Lewinsky testimony and the, I forget the exact quote in his magazine. But what I'm saying is, look, do you doubt that we declared war on terrorism in the middle of impeachment? Do you seriously doubt, or I'll ask any of you, do you seriously doubt that there is a capability in the White House of things that we wouldn't conceive of in order to distract us or to gain an advantage for Clinton Gore? Look, I also believe this. Al Gore, his whole life's tied up into November 7th. Everything he's lived for is tied up into that day. Everything he was raised for. Being president is that if this doesn't happen, his life is meaningless. His life is over for a while till he puts it back together. It doesn't mean nearly as much to Bush. His life will go on. Everything he's been raised for, everything he's been aiming at, Clinton's legacy is tied up in November 7th. You think they're just going to sit around and let fate, without any intervention from them, take over? My point is, Nader, will he get out? I said 3 weeks ago, you wait, when the time comes, they'll get him out, and so forth. And people said, Rush, you don't know Ralph Nader. He's committed. And I read what
Are you not so convinced about it now?
No, I'm not so sure now. I read a story at the Village Voice, and everybody's denying that they offered him cash to get out.
Yeah,
and
I read
that he
that
denied
same
it,
piece.
but they are denying that. So I'm just saying that it is, with a week left, it's way too soon. Like you said to me earlier, I'm acting like this is over. If the election were tomorrow, I'd I'd lay you some money on it. But there's way too much that can happen between these 6 days, and with people who've shown willingness to do practically anything to win. Ends justifies the means, so be fun to watch.
And we'll all be watching it together. We're going to be right back after the short break, and we'll talk of the Clinton legacy and what might happen to Mrs. Clinton if she goes to the Senate. We'll be right back. You don't like that idea, do you?
I understand how at the end of an election it's tempting for a campaign to take something and twist it and try to use it to drive up people's fears and negativity and insecurities. And I find it, regrettable and outrageous that they would exploit the deaths of these young men and women for pure political partisan advantage.
And we continue now with Rush Limbaugh. That's obviously not the way you saw it.
Why do people say that about the James Byrd chain ad? I resent that the Democrats and Al Gore would exploit the death of that man for the sake of Al Gore's election. So you could have the same reaction to the James Byrd chains ad that a lot of people want to have to Nurse Ratched there.
Of course, what the Democrats argue is they say the NAACP was supposed to be a nonpartisan ad. I know you don't accept that premise, but
it's a 501c3. I mean, they say they set up a special 501c4 to pay for it, but they're not supposed to do what they did. They're a 501c3 organization. They technically are not supposed to stand for or represent parties or candidates.
So you don't believe Mr. Lazio ever should have felt obligated to apologize for tying Mrs. Clinton in some way to the deaths of these sailors on the USS?
I don't think that anybody owes the Clintons an apology. I don't think the Republicans owe Clinton an apology for impeachment like he's saying in Esquire magazine. I don't think they owe them an apology. But I think that as long as the Clintons are around, if they had any decency and honor, they would be apologizing for the last 8 years and what they've done to the moral climate, to the overall malaise of the mental mindset of this population. I'll be waiting for a long time, but I doubt that I'll get one myself either.
Is there a part of you that's going to miss Bill Clinton?
No, I'm not going to have a chance to miss him. He's not going to go away. Let me answer that. There are two parts of the question.
Is he going to keep on resurfacing?
Yeah, I'll tell you how. He can't do without spotlight. He's a figure of the media. He demands the attention on him. I mean, I think he needs it for happiness and contentment, self-esteem, worth, and all that. You watch what happens. Whoever is the next president, I don't care if it's Gore or Nader or Bush, within 2 weeks, if the next president, or whenever, the next president advances legislation that reverses a Clinton policy, Clinton is going to be beside himself. He's going to call a press conference. And the press will go, because this has never happened before. You know, there's an unwritten rule. Presidents don't comment on their successors for at least a year. Just politeness, and George Bush still hasn't on Clinton, he'll call a press conference, I can't believe what they're doing. I worked harder than I ever worked to get that done, and they think they can just turn that around in 2 weeks after being... And the press will be forced to go to the new president. What do you think of President Clinton saying you shouldn't be trying to tamper with his work and all? It's going to be precedent-setting. We've never had to deal with it before.
But you could keep that very issue-specific, could you not? That isn't something that necessarily has to become personal. Issue versus issue.
None of it's personal. What do you mean personal? You mean with me?
Well, in terms, I know in interviews with President Bush, he never would disparage President Clinton, but he obviously made it clear that he thought the next president should restore honor and dignity to the office. Okay, so that wasn't personal. So if you think that Mr. Clinton may come out and he's upset about something he has done was overturned, is that not an acceptable thing for him to do if you argue just on the merits of the issue?
Name for me the last president that's done it. I mean, what I'm describing, I may not be describing it properly. What I'm describing to you will be precedent-setting. What I'm describing to you isn't done. Look, Ronald Reagan cut taxes in 1980 or 81. Clinton raised taxes in 93. Did George Bush or Reagan call a press conference and condemn Clinton for raising taxes? They didn't. Clinton will do that. That's all I'm saying, because he needs to be in the spotlight. He's still building his legacy, and he's a young man. You watch, Paula. It's going to be something that we've not dealt with before, and you're going to be doing a show. I predict you're going to want me back. Rush, you know, you told us, and I doubted you, but you're right. Now, what are we going to do about it?
We just weren't sure which Clinton you were talking about, President Clinton or perhaps Senator Clinton?
Oh, gee.
Got you there.
Well, I guess it is Halloween +1.
All right. I'm going to really challenge you on the other side of the break, and I want to see if there are 4 things that you can point to that are achievements of President Clinton's. All right?
Why?
I'm going to give you a second or two to think about that.
What is the point?
I want you to analyze his legacy a little bit more. We'll be right back. We'll argue on the other side. All right, I'm back now with Rush Limbaugh, and I know you think I'm wasting your time with this question.
Well,
is there anything that you can point to that is an achievement of the president?
NAFTA.
First of all, the economy. Okay, NAFTA. All right.
I'll support them. I supported the administration on NAFTA. Look, these questions are like National Honor Society questions. This is like two kids have been fighting. Okay, now you come out and say something nice about him, little Johnny. No, but... And you come out and say nothing about him, little Freddie, and let's all make up. No, Paula, I'm not here to
I want you to write his legacy. And we've heard some of what you
want me to do it on achievements. I don't choose to look at Bill Clinton in the light of achievement.
Expanding trade? The economy, do you give him any credit for that?
Yeah, well, no. Actually, I was going to give him some credit for staying out of the way, but he didn't stay out of the way. He raised taxes on everybody. He didn't do it.
Reduce crime?
What did he do?
Well, they would argue that the amount of crime nationally has gone down under his watch.
But what did they do to reduce it?
100,000 cops, they will say on the street.
There aren't 100,000 cops.
But I don't want to play Democratic spokesperson
There aren't 100,000 cops. Well, but see, when people fall for it like that, I mean, they say, see, government never lies. So they say they stop crime. It's BS. It's Barbara Streisand. They had nothing to do with reducing crime. Mayors, police chiefs, crimes stopped at the local. These guys haven't even enforced gun control laws, for crying out loud. Paula, I don't know how they can claim to reduce crime.
Of course, every administration along the way has been guilty of that, right? Not effectively enforcing gun control laws. Oh, come on, Rush. You know the criticism. That was true of the President Bush's administration.
I think that you're going to find that records were set in the non-enforcement of gun laws because this administration wants gun laws to not work so that they can continue to ask for more, because their eventual desire is the confiscation of all guns. And for that to happen, they have to create the illusion that gun laws don't work. So the best way to present that illusion is to not enforce them.
All right, so you don't believe Al Gore when he said at the campaign stop this week, that is not my intention to take your guns away from you hunters.
Paula,
you don't even take that at face value.
Paula, that to me, let's go back to the beginning of the show, is evidence he's losing. Democrats don't talk about that when they talk about gun control. They must have focus group or polling data that shows them they're in real trouble with their base, Reagan Democrats and blue-collar people, Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, who like to hunt, who think that Gore wants to take guns away from them, because all Gore does is talk about Columbine, Jonesboro, and all that. So Gore says in the debate, by the way, I don't want to take your guns away from you hunters. That's never happened before. It's an admission that his gun policy hasn't flown, and that people are misunderstanding him, he thinks, and that he's trying to align his base. I mean, no, he doesn't. It's all smoke and mirrors. He does, down the road, envision a day, if he really believes this, of having no guns in the hands of private citizens. Of that, I'm confident.
All right, we'll talk more about that on the other side of the break. We're going to take a short one right here. And we'll even give you some water so you can clear up your throat there, Rush. We'll be right back.
I got some ready right now.
And we continue now with Rush Limbaugh. As we close out the show tonight, a very quick reaction to the Esquire cover of the president that'll come out on the newsstands in December. Jay Leno had a lot of fun with this the other night. What did he title it? The breeder of the free world? Something.
You know
like
what
that.
The title of that is? Can you back off just a second on that, just to get a little wider shot? Because the correct title.
See, Rush, the directors only listen to me. That's the problem.
Ask him to widen out. Back off, because I'll tell you, I got this magazine last Thursday.
Right.
Esquire sent it over to me last Thursday. I looked at it. The title of that is Monica's View. That's what that pose is. That is a purposeful pose. Look at that. That's Monica's View. Look where the tie is pointing. The lens makes the hands bigger than the face. The stool, the leg of the stool, look where it goes. Look where the tie points. Look at the smile on the face. This is Bill Clinton saying to Republicans and anybody who didn't like impeachment, take this. You want a little of me? Come get it. And he's smiling as big as he can. Monica's View. Paula.
It is not clear how this photo was ever picked. There's been a lot of talk back and forth from the White House that they didn't have editing rights of this photo. So do you think there's absolutely no excuse for this photo?
Paula?
No justification.
Let me tell you something. Of course not. It means the office. It's somebody who has no respect for himself, no respect for the office, no respect for the readers, no respect for the audience, no respect for voters. That is just a classic example of what Bill Clinton thinks of everybody. He's president of the United States. You don't pose that way if you have any respect for people who are going to see the picture. Now, Paula, this notion that he didn't know the picture was going to be taken, he's president.
Oh, no one's denied that he
Oh,
he
somebody has.
Oh, has
somebody has. Well, they didn't know the picture was going to be used.
Oh.
You don't pose in a way that might embarrass you. You don't give them a chance to use something that you don't want them to use. They're trying to get away with. Remember that picture of Bill and Hillary 2 weeks before Monica was announced, before we learned it? They're dancing with no music on the beach in St. Thomas.
I remember that shot well.
And a picture only ran in the LA Times. And Mike McCurry calls a press conference upset with that picture. And everybody said, what picture? They wanted the picture seen because they knew Monica was going to break.
You didn't buy that spontaneity for a moment.
Of course not.
Can I quickly move you on to a very serious subject from here? Where has the religious left and the religious right been the last couple of weeks in this election cycle? Have they been marginalized?
Well, I can see where you might think that because they haven't been as vocal and present. I think they're still out there. They're going to vote in as large a number as always as they have, at least on the Republican side. I don't know where the religious left is with Gore. Look, I really do think Gore's having trouble energizing his base. I think it's going to be the focal point on election night as everybody looks at these returns.
I know turnout is a key concern of yours.
Oh, I think the whole election's on turnout.
And the public, by and large, is pretty apathetic. I mean, we see that in poll after poll. Why do you think people just aren't excited about these two candidates, or do you think they're just cynical about the process?
It's a great question. I wanted to say this, and I'm glad you jogged this memory and hit this button. Everybody's thinking Clinton's going to get votes for Gore because he's out there. But if you look at Clinton, he's never engendered big-time votes. In '92, he got 43% of the vote. In '96, he got 49% of the vote, but only 49% of registered voters turned out. Clinton, in effect, got 24% of all registered voters. The Democrats lost the House during Clinton's presidency. He doesn't generate votes. He does not generate coattails. The notion that he's going to get votes out for Gore isn't demonstrated in Clinton's past.
One last question for you.
Yeah.
Are you at all conflicted about whether a Gore win would help your show out more in the long run or a Bush win?
No. Most of my radio show's growth occurred during the 4 years of the Bush administration. I went from 56 stations to 500, audience 250,000 to 16 million. Liberals are always going to be there, and when they're not in power is when they're funny. That's when they do wacky things that you can talk about. And
that's what you're hoping for.
That's what I'm hoping for.
All right, Rush Limbaugh, great to see you. Thanks for
Paula.
coming by.
Thanks
Was I fair with you? Because I know you hate doing these television interviews.
I don't hate them, and you were eminently fair.
All right. You gave me a hard time at the beginning there.
Just so you know.
Okay. Appreciate you dropping by.
You bet.
And we'll be watching the election and listening to what you have to say.
Well, have me back.
Several days down.
You're going to want me back when this is over.
Yeah, we'll
'cause
see if
I'll
that
have been
other
right.
Clinton prediction is true. And thank you all for watching us at home tonight. And hey, if 1 hour of Rush wasn't enough for you, make sure you tune in to Hannity and Combs tomorrow night when he joins that team as well. And don't forget to keep your sets tuned to Fox News Channel for the most fair and balanced and comprehensive political coverage around. Yeah, Britt and I will be back here election night along with our esteemed team. We'll hope you join us then as well.